AI Day 2. What's it gonna be? I'm Brian. Welcome to My Tesla Weekend. Would you believe it? We've got Lee from Tesla Economist here, and we've got Tim from Oracle Investments. What is that about? Welcome, guys.
How's it going?
Oh,
Okay.
so excited. What an opportunity. Boy, AI Day 2. So I have to confess something, Lee. The big reason I had you come on is because you're in New Zealand, which is tomorrow. So what happened yesterday at AI Day 2?
I guess we'll find out soon,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty bullish.
Well, that's, time travel. You have to be very careful and responsible with it. So, the big question a lot of investors are wondering is, how much is this going to move the stock?
I'm guessing it's not going to move it at all because Wall Street knows nothing of what happens. It's going to move the stock in 10 years from what Wall Street thinks.
And Lee?
Well, I mean, if nothing happened in the market and it was stable, then I would guess it would, if history has anything to say, then probably drop 1 or 2%. But I'm just thinking maybe this time, like every time there's an event, maybe it won't. Maybe it will jump. Maybe. Who knows? But we're not going to know.
Yeah.
And no one will understand it either. I mean, we might be like, oh my God, this is amazing, and want to, buy more stock on Monday, and then it drops.
Well,
And we
what was
don't
the
understand
last?
what the market.
What was the last big day Tesla held? Was it?
AI Day 1 last year.
And how'd the
Yeah.
stock do? Kind of nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. And before that,
Yeah.
we had a battery day,
Battery Day, yep.
which moved the
I think
stock.
it dropped 3%, was it? Or dropped 2% off that day because they were all waiting for the million-mile battery announcement, which they didn't officially say.
But we have reason to believe there are already million-mile batteries, at least some of them. Then, of course, we had Autonomy Day. That surely must have moved the stock.
No.
No, none of this stuff moves the stock. It's wild. But
And I think the part of the reason is because when Tesla comes out with information, it is looking 3, 5, 10 years down the road, and Wall Street's only looking 3 to 6 months down the road.
I would agree with that. The big thing is it doesn't matter to me what the analysts think. It matters to me what the product is and will be.
Yeah, I mean, because we're looking 10 years down the road. So that's when we're thinking about retiring or selling stock, perhaps. And it's like, wow, if this is happening now, then in 10 years' time, it will be worth this, it will achieve that, but not 2 or 3 years. And especially now with the market, where it is now, they don't care about future growth. They can't look 10 years ahead. They can't even look 6 months ahead now, PE ratios are being compressed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. That's where we're stuck right now. Is Wall Street's going day to day, whereas information that comes out like this, we see the implications for what it can bring for the future, but Wall Street doesn't care about that.
No. And it's crazy, but again, like you were saying, 10 years, that's a good horizon. And I think my plan on selling is when it stops being a growth company and begins being a blue chip, just a regular old money churning machine, then we'll think about it. But everything will change by then.
Yeah, and my thoughts when it gets to that point is maybe at that point they're going to end up doing dividends. Why would I bother, selling at that point when I can start reeling in dividends? Who knows how many splits we're going to have between now and then?
Yeah, that's the problem. Without dividends, the only way to really live off for retirement is you have to sell stock otherwise. But Elon has said he would never do dividends in Tesla in the past.
He said never.
So,
I thought he had said that he never said no. Maybe I didn't hear him when he said
he
would
has said
never.
no in the past, but I
Okay.
mean, this was a long time ago. I mean, this was like around Roadster launch time. I'm talking about
Okay.
a long time ago. But even if he has the cash in there and he's doing stock buybacks, it's kind of the same. If you're selling stock, it works out to be the same. Like you're just selling stock and then Tesla's buying it for you. So you can generate income from that. Is it the same as dividends in a sense? But yeah, I don't know when it's going to stop being a growth stock and become a blue chip stock. I mean, these robots, they're going to take a long time to perfect. The market's just unfathomable, really. It makes you rethink the entire economics definition. So it could be 20, 30 years. It's a really big mission. So I don't think 10 years we're going to be there. It's going to be decades.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
I I say I have a feeling that we are going to see the robot just start to take off in 10 years.
Right. There are people who believe that the bot is coming very, very soon. And if there's one thing we know about Tesla, nothing is coming very, very soon. So let's start with some
Excitement about it is very, very soon.
Yeah.
So let's start with some easy topics. Do we think we'll see hardware 4 or anything about that today?
I've heard some rumors about it, so I know that was on the list of what people thought we might be seeing today. So we might get a little test of that.
That Lee?
And will it use a radar as well, I guess is the question. Are they going to go back to radar? I mean, there's some speculation on that. And it's like maybe the previous radar wasn't quite right. Perhaps they need some sort of new radar. Now they've learned so much more with this new architecture. And perhaps anyone who has FSD gets a free upgrade with all this hardware 4 and radar. Or if you buy FSD, maybe you just get it, it comes with it. Because perhaps it needs this extra hardware architecture to match this new software architecture, maybe.
And the old radar was just basically binary. Is object yes or no? And the new one, as I understand, would be like an HD sort of thing where it functions a little bit more like LiDAR, but without such precision. It's my understanding.
And I know one of the big issues that they had discussed was, when it comes to the software, what do you decide to do when the software has conflicting information between the radar and the cameras? What does it choose? So maybe they have come up with something in the software with a better hardware system that can actually agree upon it, and so they can go back to it.
Right. Yeah, that was the reason they eliminated it in the first place. It's what's the point of it if it's conflicting? And I think it had something like, was it 150 meters range, the radar, whereas pure vision they're hitting, is it 250 meters, like that much further anyway? So I mean, it's superfluous if it's just going to give you conflicting data. So perhaps that's what this new radar is, maybe. But I mean, there may not even be any new radar at all.
Yeah, and so now they go with radar or LiDAR?
Radar.
It'd be radar.
Okay,
HD,
right.
HD radar, yeah. Whatever that means.
So that's HW4. What about FSD? Do you think we'll see an announcement about that? What are you looking to see, Tim? You go first.
I have no doubt they're going to do very much like they did last year with FSD, and they're going to dive right into all the upgrades that they have made. I'm sure Ashok's going to come out and give us all that. I'm actually hoping that they're going to tell us a more definitive date of when we're going to see a single stack, because we were supposed to see it in February and that has not come out. So I know that's the huge next step. I think that's when we're going to see 11.0 is single stack. So hopefully they can announce that today.
Right. Yeah. A lot of what was said in AI Day for one, just how they're getting on there, how it's gone, things like that. Like the summon from a car park, how complicated something as simple as that is for a human. It didn't occur to me until watching that last year. I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. Of course, that's going to be like, how do you get your head around that? So yeah, just seeing how they've achieved these sort of things they were talking then, and then perhaps something along the lines of where Dojo is as well, of course.
So Jeff left a note in the chat here saying Vision Center Cam is 250 meters.
Right.
That'd be that's pretty
So
good.
and now that's center cam. So does that see in all directions, or is that just forward looking? Because if they have radar that goes in other directions that sees further, or even if it's not as far, in other directions might be helpful also.
I think the plan is only to have one forward-facing radar on account of that being... I think the objective is to address phantom braking. And we see a lot of FUD about phantom braking, but other car companies that have collision avoidance also have phantom braking, because you have to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Because you're not going to be like, oh, is that a child or not? Oh, let's just assume it's not and continue going. I mean,
Right.
I would rather it do that. I mean, obviously, it doesn't do well on the highway when you're going at full speed and all of a sudden you're starting to brake. But I would rather it err on the side of caution.
How many times have you as a human swerved because of a plastic bag?
Oh, yeah. Because I don't want that stuck in the grill of my car. But hey, with a Tesla, you don't have a grill, so.
Or you mistook it for a living thing, a dog. I don't know. An obstacle that was more serious. So that's FSD. Dojo 2? Do we think we're going to see a Dojo 2?
Right. I mean, it's a possibility, isn't it? The
It-
next step.
It
I mean,
is. Go ahead,
like,
Tim.
I don't know if we're going to get to a Dojo 2 because we haven't even really gotten Dojo 1. I mean, if the way they're working with Dojo 1, I think it's just a matter of how much bigger can you make it and just keep on going with it. I don't know if there would be a version 2. I mean, I'm not tech savvy enough. Maybe there are ways that they can make it better. I would just think that putting more of the chips together would just make it better.
So the big problem with Dojo is it's extremely power hungry. So like each slot within the rack consumes like 10,000 watts or something insane. But if you're solving a big problem, that's less of a concern. We have heard rumors as recently as within the last month that Dojo is already running at a data center. But we don't. What we've heard from Elon is that it won't be. It won't replace the GPU cluster until it outperforms the GPU cluster, and they've still been growing the GPU cluster.
Now, do we know where Dojo is located? Is that in Palo Alto or is that in Austin?
It's not. I believe it's in the Bay Area
I would have guessed Palo Alto, maybe, right?
Okay.
because that's where the team is.
I would think that's where they would be located. I just wasn't sure, with everything they've got going and that new building that they're putting up down in Austin that is a production support center. I didn't know if that had anything to do with it.
That's a tough call. So the bot. Should we talk about what we're expecting from the bot?
Oh man, based on Elon's tweets, I think we're just going to see the hands. I think that's going to be a key component of Optimus because I don't even know if it's going to walk. I mean, it would probably make more sense to have Optimus actually be on wheels, and just roll around on its feet. Why would you go through all the process of actually getting the functionality to walk when you could just roll it?
Yeah,
That
I agree.
makes more-
I literally speculated that yesterday on my video, saying that trying to work on the balance and all that sort of stuff. It's not necessary right now. It's more about the AI of what it can actually do, and it could be more like on wheels. I said like Short Circuit. Remember that movie?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, and like you're saying, the hands are more important. Like, can it just do an actual application or do some sort of something that a human could do, and maybe look at potentially replacing a worker within time, at a certain task. I think that's more the focus than the aesthetics or the fact it can walk or the speed or anything like that.
Yeah, and I know that somebody had put over on Twitter, they did a close up on it and they saw the pressure pads on the fingers, which is huge because when you're handling delicate items, you want to make sure that you're grasping things properly. So I think that's going to be the huge piece that is going to be shown tonight.
That's very interesting. I hadn't even looked at it that closely. So the reason he had given why it would be a humanoid is so that it can fill roles currently held, tasks done by humans. The world was built around humans, and the shape and the motility and all that. But with that said, one speculation I saw early is why not a couple extra arms? Just little stubby guys right in the middle to hold on to your tools while you're opening the door. I don't know.
I mean, that does make sense. I just don't know when it comes to running the AI behind it, if it would work with forearms. I mean, obviously the brains behind it would be way smarter than a human brain could, especially when it doesn't have any emotion running behind it. So you would think it could do that.
That's
So
true. That's a good point, because now that you mention it, General Grievous did still have a meat brain.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually you'll just see various accessories for it. Like maybe you can take a finger off and it can change to a screwdriver or something. I think it would depend on the application, and when you buy your bot, you buy accessories or even aftermarket accessories for other companies could create for various applications. Yeah, I mean, who knows what it could do? It'll be modular, I guess.
I want the kitchen add-on with the blender hands.
Yeah.
And why not?
Yeah.
But it would also be able to pick up a screwdriver if it doesn't have that attachment. Because
Yeah.
the exciting thing to me is we're very close to the day when the cars can go to the loading trucks and trains and boats themselves but they can't tie themselves down. Now they can. And why not have them, scan the VIN, tie it down, photograph the actual tie down. So if there's ever any questions or it comes loose, we can see it, verify that, and have a second bot, have Dojo back home verifying, double checking everyone's work.
Yeah, I mean, same for like a delivery van. If we had FSD or robotaxi delivery vans, then someone's still got to get the package out of the car and deliver it to the door. So it's not, the self-driving vehicles are great for some purposes, but it doesn't work for everything. When you add the bot in there to do the extra work, it opens up more industry, really,
And what you could also do for getting the package from the van to the front door is use the ejector they're developing for Starlink on Starship.
Well, and that was something that, just knowing where people's brains still are in trying to grasp the concept of all of this. Somebody said, well, maybe at tonight's event, Optimus is going to drive a car in. And I go, doesn't need to. The car will drive itself in. That's just kind of where we're at with the mindset is the car's driving itself. Optimus is just a humanoid version of FSD. And that's really where we're going with it. And once they can actually get Optimus walking around the factories or rolling around the factories, it's going to start picking up the AI as FSD does, but in humanoid form. So it'll start learning how it does it. So that's the big component behind all of this is just the learning capabilities of the AI.
So if it is a full-size humanoid bot today, which at one point was the intention, maybe instead of driving a Cybertruck, it could drive a forklift and load something into the back of the Cybertruck.
I mean, if it did that, I think we'd see a skyrocket of the stock price on the index.
Yeah.
Think.
Well,
But,
that's
I
true.
mean, I think, its first application would make sense for it to be able to do something to replace a human on the Tesla production line. For one, obviously, it saves Tesla money on labor, but also it's there on the floor and they're learning from it and getting the experience from the bot, seeing what it can do, training it in the meantime. It would make the most sense to me.
Yeah, and thinking about, just the pressure pads on the fingers, can it pick up this box, move it to this part of the factory, come back, flip a switch?
Yeah,
Very
something
simple
as simple as
tasks
that.
very simple tasks like that. I mean, thinking about a lot of people who work in manufacturing, there's a lot of companies. One of the guys I met over the past weekend works over at John Deere, and there's guys who literally just sit there and just like hit a button all day long. Like a robot can clearly do that. So if they've got functionalities like that, like why would you pay a human to do that? We've got to pay vacation time and sick time and all this stuff. When you just have a robot do that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some very basic jobs that humans do, but we still need them. A human can only do them, and a human still has a minimum wage requirement that still costs this much. If it's $30,000, $50,000 a year, whatever, you start multiplying that into like 4 or 5 years of labor, and it's like, well, that's like $250,000 it could save perhaps. That's a lot of money that people could justify spending on such a robot. Plus, it could likely do the task faster. It wouldn't need holidays. It wouldn't even need to sleep. So it could work 3 times more hours or something on top of that.
Oh yeah, and then coming from management myself, I look at the fact that you've got to take all that time to train a new person that's coming on board. If somebody leaves, you've got to do that. You've got to give people raises over the course of the year. Who knows what's going to happen? There's so much inefficiency that goes on.
True.
And obviously we don't want to remove the human workforce that's out there. We want to keep people working, but when it comes to an efficiency and cost measure, it's a significant cost savings.
Yeah, the loss of jobs issue, but I don't know. History shows that when we have these technological breakthroughs, it ends up offering more labor anyway. Plus, we have the baby boomers retiring anyway, and they need to be replaced somehow. So I'm not sure about this. And Elon talks about universal basic income necessary because there's going to be no jobs left. But I don't know. And if that was the case, I think we're still a long way away from that anyway. In the meantime, I would say it's just going to offer humans more leverage when it comes to their work.
Yeah, that's actually something I had mentioned last year when they first unveiled Optimus was just that is, everybody comes out with the same thing. And I'm like, but you go back to when the car was first invented, go back then and you had the horse and buggy and it's like, it's not that you're losing jobs, you're just changing what those jobs are. That's it.
Yeah. You're losing layman jobs more so, and these people just need to train harder and spend more time in education to now get a job because the job now requires more skills. I mean, everyone knows Microsoft Word or anything like that. But I know back in the 80s or 90s, it's like, oh, it needs to know Microsoft Word. That was like a big thing on a CV, you know? And now it's just accepted. And maybe in the future, everyone knows how to train a robot or something, you know?
True. Yeah, I mean that's very true. And I mean thinking about like when I was growing up, I had a word processor. Like, ooh, that was big.
Yeah, I learned on WordPerfect 4.2. That was there was learning to be done. So when you said
And Lotus,
30,000,
Lotus 123 spreadsheets, remember those?
no, I
Oh
didn't.
yeah.
I wasn't trained in that. Excel was my first exposure. So when you said 30,000 to 50,000, I'd go further and say 10,000. There's no reason at 10,000 you're still replacing 3 jobs. I think the bot will cost. I think Tesla's cost to build the bot will be well under 30,000.
Oh yeah.
And so even if you're replacing one role, that would be full time, 3 people. And even if it's slower, it still pays for itself in under a year.
Yeah, and then that's and you think about it too. It's like that's 1 year's worth of salary getting replaced by one bot. Let's go to the next year. Now it's profitable.
Wow.
But initially, we're talking about replacing labor, which is where the highest value is for these robots. It's like if you're paying someone $50,000 a year, then suddenly a company's like, well, I can buy this bot and I save $50,000 a year plus all the other expenditure associated. But eventually, when they start mass producing more and more millions, or tens and tens of millions, or hundreds of millions, there's only so many jobs it can replace, and it will start eventually finding its way into new jobs that didn't exist before. Suddenly, I will have a live-in maid in my house, a live-in cook, a gardener that can do all these things. I don't have that now. I'm not replacing my current gardener, maid, or cook. I would just have extra labor because it become maybe a price point of $30,000 that okay, I'd say most people could justify that expense.
I would agree,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And just looking at myself, I mean, I was talking with you guys before. I'm up at 3:30 in the morning. I do a video in the morning. I go to my job at 6. I get home at 5:30 in the evening. I do my evening video. I don't have time to do adulting or anything like that. If I had an Optimus bot at home to take care of all those things that I couldn't do, that would make my life so much more efficient and just easier. So that would be huge.
Quality of
Yeah.
life at that point, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did get Brian Doe wants to know, can you talk about the Tesla Bruno project? Has anyone heard of that?
I have not heard of the Bruno project.
I am not familiar with it. All right. So I guess the answer to that, I'm sorry, Brian Doe, is no, I guess we can't. But I'll look into that and
I feel like it
see.
rings a bell somewhere, but I can't talk about it. No, I can't recall it.
I just say, I mean, I know I've heard the rumors about the Pi phone, which I don't foresee ever coming, but
That was,
That's it.
and then you'd get questions about it on your channel, and it's like, guys, it's, I assure you, not a thing.
I was like, I'm looking at it like, if that was the thing that was coming out, I'm pretty sure Stephen Mark Ryan would have talked about it.
For sure. Or someone reputable.
Yes.
The big thing about the bot is I see room for a profit margin you cannot get from cars.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, when it comes down to it, the Optimus is still going to be hardware. So hardware is hardware. Software is where the real margins are. Software and AI going into it, that's where the bread and butter is going to be.
Yeah.
But we're
And
going from a car, which is massive hardware, to a bot, which is minimal hardware relatively. So it is going to be basically a way to sell that software in a smaller, cheaper, lower cost package. And so hence the margins being potentially that much higher.
True, and I would almost see. I was thinking about with the cars. I don't think they could do it with the cars because it's so cost intensive. But with the bot, it could almost be similar to what you get with smartphones right now. You go down to your phone dealer, you get your AT&T, whoever you've got, and you're paying for basically the phone service and all the internet connectivity that you have with that, and you just pay a little monthly fee for the hardware of the phone. It could theoretically be the same with the bot when you get it. You're really just paying for the software package, and the hardware itself kind of just gets worked into the cost of the software.
Yeah, I mean the pricing methods they could use. It just you can rent your bot maybe for 2 hours a day, and it can clean your house, and then or do your gardening, and maybe never even get to own it. Maybe you rent it for a year on a production line or something. They don't necessarily have to sell it to the end user. I mean, you could just there's so many ways to price this product.
And,
Oh, man,
and-
just-
yeah,
Just
and I
thinking
think
about the future. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think it will be sold. I think it's too valuable to sell, And I think it also removes anything that's removed from the bot, like that in the future, like let's say this particular thing isn't supported anymore. Great, return your bot. I don't have to give you any money. There's no lawsuit. That chapter is just closed. Google Stadia.
I mean, I
And
wonder
the
if they would.
same, sorry, go ahead.
I wonder if it'd be like so you'd see bot fleets, like we're going to see fleets of vehicles. You'd have the same thing. Maybe there's like Rosie from the Jetsons. There's a whole cleaning fleet of bots that go out there. Your Tesla's going to drive the bot to your house. Bot's going to come out, clean your house for you, get back in the Tesla, and just drive it to the next spot.
Yeah, yeah, and it's we're not even sure that the robotaxi will be for sale either. That might be the same thing. Tesla just because Tesla's going to have a lot of money. There's no way around that. And like we say, or maybe they'll give dividends or do share buybacks, but perhaps they will use that to buy their massive fleet of robotaxis and Tesla bots and just rent them.
Yeah, and we already see a lot of robotaxi type vehicles at like airports that shuttle people around. I have no doubt that's going to be the first place we end up seeing robotaxis.
Is the airport?
Yeah, airports, different functions like that. Go to like maybe stadiums, just places to shuttle people around. Thinking about the smart park and summon feature, that alone could just go. Let's say you're going to the Super Bowl and you just want a vehicle to shuttle people around from parking lots. That would be
Yeah.
the first ideal place for it.
But I wonder how it's going to start. I mean, we think maybe there'll be a test city or something, and people will say maybe Vegas might be likely one. They got the
Oh
Hyperloop,
yeah.
the loop there, and it's just going around the strip like that simple. I mean, there's enough people there wanting to go around the strip that could be a potential test city to start with. It's fairly simple to drive compared to some places. So yeah, but other people think maybe like Elon said, you'd have an over-the-air update, and suddenly all of them are in the fleet. But there needs to be a certain concentration of robotaxis in each city. Otherwise, you might be waiting half an hour or something for your taxi. It needs to be there essentially faster than Uber. You would hope eventually, and
Yeah.
it might be just from your neighbors. A neighbor has a robotaxi sitting in their driveway. You order one, and it's there in a minute or so, and you don't have to jump into it immediately. You can rent it for an hour or two. You don't have to give it back or anything. There's so many ways that pricing model can also work too.
Yeah, I mean, just think, like you said, there's so many options that they can do with this. I'm really interested to see what they plan on doing with it. But like,
They're
there's so
so
many
profitable.
options. Yeah,
Every option is just like incredibly profitable, like
yeah.
we've never seen before.
So today, apparently, attendees were asked to sign a waiver if they would like a vehicle demonstration. What do you think they're going to be going around riding in?
I know Farzad had mentioned about maybe a robotaxi coming out, maybe with a smart summon. Maybe that's what they end up doing. Maybe they've got a prototype robotaxi with smart summon, and people can take a ride around in it.
I mean, we talk about the stock price not moving, but if they reveal a robotaxi, like a new robotaxi or something like that, then I'm pretty sure that would move the price.
True.
But I don't know about this taxi yet. I'm not sure. I think it's going to be, in my opinion, I mean, it's supposed to be mass production in 2024. So the reveal has got to come sometime. I think it's going to be based on probably Cybertruck style manufacturing, simple piece of engineering. It's going to have to be stainless steel because it needs to be indestructible. Because you never know who's going to be in it, what they'll do. And it needs to be produced as fast as possible, which is what that Cybertruck design will be like. So I'm thinking whatever it's going to be in a cyber sort of style. Stainless steel as well. You don't want people scratching the paint.
Yeah. The other thing I heard tonight too is somebody said they were going to unveil the quad motor Cybertruck. So perhaps they're giving rides in that tonight.
Ah,
I think I'm more inclined to think I would love for it to be a robo-taxi, or as Jason Rogers just said, the boring van. I'd love to see a boring shuttle, like a canoe but slightly bigger. But I think it's going to be the Cybertruck, and I think so because they have too many unproduced models that have already been announced, and I feel like it'd just be throwing gas on the FUD fire to unveil another vehicle that isn't in production.
I think Cybertruck needs too much thunder on its own. I think that's too big. That's too big a deal to mix in with AI Day, and it's not as related enough. If it's a new vehicle, might be some sort of robotaxi or the next one. I don't know.
From
But
what I hear, though, I heard, I think it was Dave Lee had said that last year at AI Day, they were giving rides in the Cybertruck. So, I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But I did hear that they were going to have it at there with a quad motor. I'm just waiting for them to actually finally give us an order page so I can choose which one I want.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the specifications on those 4680 batteries.
Yes,
Or
that
that Model Y Austin as well. I mean, how fast is it going to charge?
Yeah. Yeah. So, reminder to those who've just tuned in, Lee from Tesla Economist is with us only for the pre-show. Once it starts, he's going to be taking notes and putting together his wrap-up video. So check that out later tonight after it ends, maybe in the morning. We'll see how quick he can get that out. And Tim is going to be hanging out with us for the wrap-up, where we talk about what we just saw and see if we can understand it.
we're going to put this puzzle together. It's like a Rubik's Cube, but it's not.
Yeah.
So much harder.
Yeah. Larry wanted me to say, please thank you guys for your time on behalf of all the viewers.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah. Larry is a great guy. Got to meet him in Texas and
Awesome.
hang out quite a bit. And he let me do my first drive of a Tesla,
Ooh.
a guided
What-
tour,
What'd you get to drive?
a Y long range with acceleration boost.
Nice.
Yeah.
That-
And
that's
enhanced autopilot.
Yeah, one of my friends, he let me drive his Y, and me, I have like the very base model CRV at the moment, so it was like driving a spaceship. It was unreal.
Well, I can't relate because my 2016 Nissan Quest is a spaceship, just not from this universe. Oh, so the stream looks
that
like
me?
it. Nope, that is the stream.
It's
So
a
they've-
stream which starts at 9:15 promptly, but based on Elon's time zone, because he has his own time zone, it's really 9:30.
Yeah, I've gone ahead and muted it on my side.
Oh, is it me then?
Might be.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Yeah, because I don't have it running.
I have so many windows open. Sorry.
I know, I'm the same way. I'll click on it when I'm trying to do a live stream, and I click on one, and I'm like, oh man, what window am I looking at?
If I'm researching for a video, I will have something like 20 different tabs open in my browser, just trying to get all the data I need for everything. But yeah, I mean, I can concur that the Teslas are like a spaceship. Especially in my performance Model 3, there's just nothing I've had that is as much fun as that. I just love, I get to drive it daily. It doesn't break down like a Ferrari would or cost anything remotely like that. You don't have to worry about the clutch going or it, and the safety aspect on top of that. It's just exceptional value for what is basically, like you say, a spaceship with wheels, you know?
Yeah, I've got my Model Y coming. I'm slated to get it right now. My delivery got pushed up to November 3rd to December 8th. I'm trying to push it to next year so I can get the EV tax credit. But
Yeah.
like when I drove it, one of the safety things I thought of was we're driving down the highway, and I'm like, oh, I need to get over a lane. I didn't realize I needed to move over. There's a spot I can get into. With a regular vehicle, you can't. With a Tesla, you're just like, you just get there. You just go. Because there's no transmission that slows you down. You just put your foot on the pedal and you go there.
Yeah.
You have to wait for the turbo to spin up.
It's strange whenever I drive internal combustion again. It just feels like the equivalent of probably going back to horse and cart. It's just so different. And it feels dangerous.
You saying that makes me think back to when I was back in college. We were playing on the PlayStation. I went back to Super Nintendo and played Street Fighter, and just like the delay and the buttons and the controls, that's got to be exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, and it sounds so angry as well. You put your foot down, and not very much happens, but all this noise, and it's like, whoa, maybe it's something wrong with it. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. Whereas Tesla, so much power and no noise. It's just clearly the future when you go back to the past, you know.
Yeah, that's actually something I had mentioned to a lot of people. Is one of the things that's overlooked is the noise pollution that will be reduced when we switch over to EVs worldwide.
Yeah.
And of course, I got the backlash of, well, I still want to drive my V8, my Hemi. I'm like, Have at it, man. I have no problems with that, but 95% of the population doesn't want that. And if you can
Yeah.
reduce 95% of that unnecessary noise, that's
Yeah,
significant.
it is. And in any major city, it's just a non-stop noise. But then on top of that, you got the smell pollution too,
Yeah.
the actual
And people
pollution.
don't, and people who live in it, people who live in it are like, smokers. Smokers don't always realize that they smell like smoke. The
Yeah.
same thing, when you live there, you don't realize that it smells that way.
Yeah, I mean, even back, decade ago, everyone used to smoke a lot more and it was more accepted. Now it's so rare, at least in New Zealand, it's not very common at all. And you can notice it so far away and it feels so much more offensive that you're not used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, at my job, we just hired a couple of guys. For the longest time, we had nobody who smoked. We hired a couple of guys who do, and every once in a while, they'll come in and I'm like, ooh, it's like getting punched in the face.
And now, like, when it happens when I smell internal combustion as well. It's just that much more noticeable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and because I still work in a shop, we've got engines and diesels and all that, and I'm like, it is pungent. It is very noticeable, and if we can eliminate that, that would be big. And I know a rumor I had heard from someone on my channel saying that they work in a place that builds skid steers, tractors, and all sorts of stuff. And they got some diagrams from Tesla asking them to do blueprints for them for some machinery. So I don't have any other proof behind it. I have no other news behind that, but knowing that that's the industry I work in, and I know that a lot of companies are going over to battery powered stuff. The guy I met
Right.
last week who works at John Deere is moving over to battery powered. Would not surprise me if Tesla does, at least dabble in that to see what the cost would be for it.
Yeah, I mean, some of those trucks would need some pretty substantial batteries as well.
Oh
But
yeah.
I mean, they don't go long range though either. So, I mean, they could be charged almost on site, I suppose.
Yeah, and you think about, if the Cybertruck could charge one of them, you just charge it right off of your truck.
Yeah, yeah.
The it'll be interesting to see when battery density gets to the point that construction sites can start electrifying, because like you were saying, the pollution, but the noise pollution, man. Especially you've lived. I'm sure we've all at some point lived close enough to a highway where you can hear the compression braking all night, and you can hear it from miles away. Let's get past that, man.
Yeah, and that's why think about all the money that we have spent on putting up sound barriers on the highways to prevent all that noise from hitting the people who live around that area. We don't have to spend all of that infrastructure money we don't have to spend now on that.
And I wonder how much of that is just the rolling noise of the wheels, but a lot of it is definitely the diesel big rigs.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what I
and
notice.
the semi's gonna be big. When do you guys think that do you think it's really gonna start pushing next year? How quickly do you think they're gonna ramp those?
I have an inside source. They're shipping out now in very limited numbers, and I believe absolutely they will be ramping and ramped by the end of next year. That's my
So
belief.
this is from Giga Nevada with 2170 cells.
Yeah, from an employee there.
Okay, so they are doing 2170s. I thought they were doing 4680s in the semi also.
I think they've achieved these numbers with the 2170 cells currently.
I am not
So-
certain on either of those. I didn't see the batteries, but he did leak me a photo of a crate full of the motors.
Do you know what the ramp rate is expected to be on those?
No.
Because somebody had said 100,000. I was like, that's absurd. I couldn't
No.
imagine that. 10 to 25,000 a year, I think would be more than sufficient.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, 100,000 would make them what, the second, third largest? No, that'd be cool, but no, I don't see
And,
it.
and still,
They just need the charging support though. I mean, we're not even close to that. So
Right.
it'll be limited with the chargers for quite some time. It's going to take a long time to achieve those. But I mean, I think they were at, was it 2 megawatts or 1.5 megawatts charging speed, which is phenomenal, obviously. But if you have so many trucks, there's only so many chargers. So that would be a massive limiting factor for some time. Not only that, you need these chargers on the routes that these trucks drive or their destinations too. I mean, so there'd be limited routes to start with. So that'd be the
Yeah.
limiting part.
obviously, whoever's going to be purchasing them, like Frito-Lay buying them, they're going to have their own chargers there. But where's the destination? Where are they going to? Where are they going to charge along the way? That's the important part.
And for a lot of use cases, you know your route, and you can put chargers either at your own warehouse or at your warehouse and your destination, and then you're golden.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're charging it while you're unloading it, then that time is money, and it saves a lot of time. Because it won't be the quickest charge, probably. It might take an hour or so, which is a long time to stop. But yeah,
I don't
and
see why it
and
would need to be that big because it's the size of the pack. It charges in percentages as much as it does in watts. So the size of the battery allows for faster charging.
yeah, it would definitely be a faster charger. Yeah, especially with this 1/2 or 2 megawatts. But yeah, and then we've also got energy finally ramping up on top of that, which is nice to see. And now we're moving over to LFP cells. I'm guessing we might have about a 25% gross margin, up from about 0%, which is pretty good. But the numbers with this Lamprop factory in California, talking about 40 gigawatt hours. Now, I would assume that on this production line, suddenly they're going to be produced more efficiently and lower cost, obviously. So we might have even higher margin, maybe 33, 40% perhaps we might even get to see, especially with the LFP cells, which is 40 gigawatt hours a year is actually going to make a difference in the financials. Maybe $1.5 billion extra a quarter in net profit. Oh,
Well-
sorry, in operating profit.
And also, we've got all that rebate money coming from the
Oh, yes, that too.
Yeah.
IRA.
Which is not nothing.
No, it's
Yes,
it's
and that was something I'm actually going to start diving into myself, is because we know that's the next S curve that's really coming. FSD and robotaxis are going to be there, but energy is the big one. So looking at that, looking at the power walls that we've got coming, the mega packs. I've got some of my subscribers over in Hawaii. When Elon had announced that they're dropping all the mega packs over there, they got their last shipment of coal in. Sounds like very good sentiment from the people of Hawaii looking forward to this. They just need superchargers over in Hawaii. So Elon, if you're watching this, they need superchargers in Hawaii.
Because Hawaii, like power of energy over there, so what, about 3 or 4 times the price of the main.
it's
So
outrageous.
gas prices, gas prices over there are over $7 a gallon,
Right.
which is astronomical. That's even higher than California, which is crazy. But you think about it, it's an island, so just like
Sure.
you guys in New Zealand, everything has to get
Sure.
shipped in. So everything
Yeah.
is an import for the most part, except
Yeah.
for sheep. So
When it,
you know,
when I went to Kauai, like I had an Airbnb and there was still no air conditioning in the summer. It was pretty tough.
yeah, and they said
October.
They said Kauai. One of the guys I have, he's from Kauai, and he said they're fully up and running now. So Kauai is up and running. Big
Wow, yeah.
Island is getting all the mega packs.
Cool.
So it looks like they're right on board, and they've got solar farms popping up all over the place there.
Yeah, I mean Australia as well, another great place because electricity is expensive there too.
Yeah.
And they have all the solar facilities too, and a lot of sun. So yeah, there'll be places where energy will be more beneficial. Like I guess Germany right now would be a pretty good place to be. On top of that, but
Yeah, and I know, and as Elon was talking, and I mean, I've traveled to Norway and Sweden in the winter, wind for sure. And as Elon said, you go to the North Shore, you start storing up wind there, and you can ship that stored energy down to mainland Europe, and that would be huge. And if they can do that, especially this winter, if they can start working on something at least to break the ice over there, I think that'd help Germany going forward and alleviate some of the issues that they've got going on with the Nord Stream pipeline.
So real quick before it starts, which will be any second, I'm having delays on my side. So when we go live, Lee is going to be dropping off the channel so he can work on his presentation for later, tonight, tomorrow. Awesome. Thank you, Lee, by the way, for joining us. And Tim is going to be shutting off his camera and speaker with the little buttons there to preserve my bandwidth so we can do this, and then joining us back at the end for a recap of all that. And I'll be taking notes on screen during the presentation. Sound good, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to see, because for some darn reason, I'm still on my backup computer because I haven't had a chance to get my big dog moved. Anyway, it's running slow. I don't know. I think it's because I've got so much stream action going on in all directions. It's just not liking playing the Tesla stream, but we'll get it.
Do you have Starlink?
I no longer have Starlink. I have
Oh, you
switched.
did have it?
I did have it. I've still got it. I've got a guy who's purchased it from me. I'm gonna ship it this weekend. But the dropouts were just too painful, and the upload speeds were really bad. So now I'm on fiber because my neighborhood finally has fiber.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll go to upload 2-3 gigs, and it'll take 20-30 seconds. It's just magical.
fiber.
Yeah.
Lee, what do you guys have over there in New Zealand? Do you guys have fiber, or do you have the
I have
Starlink? with
fiber
you?
where I'm, yeah.
Okay.
I get about 600 megabytes a second.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would say, for me, I live in a relatively rural city area, and I don't have fiber. I'm like, why? Why don't I have fiber?
Huh. And my fiber's not too expensive.
how much is it there then?
I'm paying, I don't remember, I think 60, $70 a month for fiber.
Yeah, same price as me. Yeah, unlimited downloads.
Okay, yep. And I've got even my cable. I'm at $45 a month at cable.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's still
not,
it's good enough for me. I don't need anything more than this. I don't have any connectivity issues, so
No.
I can't complain.
yeah, that's wonderful. Do you think bots are going to be used in war?
Unfortunately, probably. Which actually, thinking about the fact that we have drones being used, if something's going to get blown up, if a human's not losing its life, awesome. Unfortunately, we have to deal with that anyway. But I guess if anything, at least it's a bot.
I mean, in theory, if it was just bot against bot, it wouldn't be that big a deal. No one's going to lose their lives, but it's going to be bot against human, most likely.
Yeah.
And Elon says, it's technology that wins wars, not numbers. It's all about who has the best technology, and that's it.
And the
Yeah.
strange thing I was thinking is, well, we start with them just in support roles, so they're not actually doing the battle, but it's like, well, then we're putting humans in to die instead. When it comes to the ethics of war, it's all very complicated.
But I hope that, with things like decentralized energy and no more dependence on oil, then there'll be less war in the end anyway.
Oh, it's time, guys.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was fun, guys.
Thank you so
Next
much.
week.
All right. Here comes the next fun bit.